Darth Sidious, also known as Emperor Palpatine, rules the Galactic Empire with an iron fist. With the greatest of all military technology and an enormous army of stormtroopers, he seems to be an unstoppable foe. But, hidden underneath this facade of might and prosperity, the Empire as a whole is on the brink of collapse. Why? Palpatine has made a fatal error. He has chosen to rule as a totalitarian dictator, which has left the economy of the Empire in shambles. Nearly all the wealth being created is in the form of new weaponry and armor, and the planets that bear the burden of funding the war effort are poverty-stricken. How did all of this come to be? Can we learn from Palpatine's serious mistakes? To properly understand the imperial economic system, we must go back in time to the days of the Galactic Republic and observe the events that led to the rise of the Empire. Many years earlier, the Republic was composed of thousands of planets, each represented by senators. The Senate met often to discuss issues and propose bills, overseen and moderated by the Supreme Chancellor, who at this time was Finis Valorum. The Republic's economic affairs were primarily overseen by the intergalactic banking clan. There was no such thing as a Federal Reserve, as the Republic actually tended to be hands-off in most areas, choosing to delegate most responsibilities to private organizations and local planetary governments. Emperor Palpatine used to be a lowly senator from the grassy planet of Naboo, a servant to Queen Amidala. Palpatine's rise to power began with the invasion of Naboo by the Trade Federation, an organization designed to monitor interstellar shipping. After Chancellor Valorum showed hesitance in affirming military reaction against the Trade Federation, Queen Amidala moved for a vote of no confidence in the Chancellor, which received a majority vote in the Senate. 3 candidates were put forward to replace the Chancellor, one of whom was Palpatine. He eventually won the election and became the new Supreme Chancellor. Soon after, the separatist forces which had broken off from the Republic provoked a war with the Republic. The conflict that followed lasted 3 years. The Republic, which before this war did not possess a standing army, obtained the army it needed from the planet of Kamino, which had secretly been harvesting an army of clones to one day fight for the Republic. Unbeknownst to almost everyone, however, the Sith were well aware of the commissioning of this army and had been planning for years to use it to their advantage. The pieces of Palpatine's plan were quickly falling into place. The war against the separatist forces was nearly a front. Palpatine's real intentions were twofold: to gain full control of the Republic's government and economy, and to harness the clone army to enforce his will and exterminate the Jedi. Using the war as an excuse, Palpatine began taking control of more and more of the Republic through emergency powers, feigning reluctance each time he exercised such powers, and promising to restore the responsibilities to the Senate once the war was finally over. Unsurprisingly, this never happened. As the Sith Lord, Palpatine secretly controlled the separatist forces, and as Supreme Chancellor, he openly controlled the clone army. Because of this, he essentially controlled the entire war. Palpatine had the separatist forces attack the planet Scipio, on which the intergalactic banking clan had its headquarters, paving the way for the clone army to come in, defeat the separatists, and take control of the banking clan in the name of protection. Palpatine now controlled where the Republic's wealth was funneled, and the results were disastrous. Near the end of the Clone Wars, it was brought to the Senate's attention that many planets were suffering from extreme poverty due to the vast majority of the Republic's funds being put toward the war effort. Limited action was taken, but at this point nothing was done in the Senate without Palpatine's approval. This was because of the corruption that now permeated the Senate, as a majority of the senators engaged in war profiteering behind closed doors, only concerned with retaining their positions of power. In essence, the war turned the Senate into a body of powerless sycophants who were eager to please Chancellor Palpatine. Thus, Palpatine's famous statement, "I am the Senate," was alarmingly accurate. As the war interfered with previous trade agreements and supply chains, living conditions worsened for many citizens of the Republic. Whereas before the war, most planets were motivated to be industrious and innovative in order to improve quality of life and increase personal wealth, the new nationalized economic system discouraged such productivity, as the Senate became the deciding factor in what was produced and for how much. when the Jedi were defeated, and Chancellor Palpatine declared himself the leader of a new empire, there was no resistance from the Senate. In fact, there was thunderous applause. The totalitarian regime that was established by Palpatine was bound to meet with rebellion eventually, not only because many believed Palpatine to be evil, but also because of the extremely poor economic situation of much of the Empire. Since Palpatine controlled the money supply, he could channel as many Imperial credits as he thought expedient to military spending. This excessive creation of new credits would undoubtedly have led to high inflation. Also, as more and more industries became nationalized, the government would have control of several artificial monopolies, hindering innovation. Since the government decided how much of each product was made, a situation similar to what occurred in the Soviet Union resulted within the empire: constant shortages and structural unemployment. Local governments almost always know better than the federal government concerning which decisions are the best to make for the prosperity of their citizens, because they have more information than the federal government. Emperor Palpatine ignored this when setting up his centralized economy, causing poor decisions to be made and greatly distorting prices and profits. The consequences of Palpatine's economic decisions would not have been obvious at first. The change was gradual as he slowly used his emergency powers to nationalize the banking system and other organizations. However, the opportunity cost of all of the funds directed toward weaponization instead of local industries would have eventually caught up with him had he not met with his untimely death at the hands of his apprentice. Palpatine failed to trace the consequences of his policies for all the groups that composed the Empire, choosing to focus on only one group while virtually ignoring the rest. And since he possessed an approved monopoly on force, no one could stop him from making his fatal decisions. The transformation from the thriving Galactic Republic to the trouble-ridden Empire has many parallels in our own galaxy, both in times past and in our present day. The Nazi Party rose to power in Germany due to popular dissatisfaction with the previous regime and a desire for change, similar to the situation that led to Palpatine's election as Chancellor. Also, the abuse of emergency powers has been present many times in American history, from the government programs of FDR during the Great Depression to the drastic restrictions and power grabs of state and federal officials during the COVID era. Valuable lessons can be learned from the failures of past administrations, including the rise and fall of the Galactic Empire. First, exchange must be free and voluntary in order for wealth to be created. Otherwise, one party in a transaction will profit, while the other will lose, and wealth will be destroyed. Second, policies often have unintended consequences, some of which can be foreseen and counteracted. If negative consequences arise, they must be traced back to their sources and dealt with promptly. Finally, the centralization of major industries is harmful to an economy. The more privatized industries are, and the less the federal government gets involved, the more freedom individuals will possess to make financially beneficial decisions and create more wealth. The nations of our world need not fall prey to the same errors that the Empire did. By working together to make better and more informed economic policies, individual freedom may be preserved, and economies may thrive. May the Force be with us.